welcome to Book Talk at the Stickney-Forest View Public Library. I'm Sonia, and today we're talking about the 1960s. It was a very turbulent time, civil rights and all that. What made me pick this is because the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. just passed last month, April 1968, so it's been 50 years. So I started thinking about some of the books that I've read that have these issues, and one of them is called The Knicks by Nathan Hill. This came out 2 years ago, and it's about this English professor who is underappreciated, and he's supposed to be writing this novel, but he hasn't, so now he's being sued by the publishing company to get the advance back. And meanwhile, his mother, who left him when he was a kid, has now come back into his life. And we get to see her life in the 60s. So we flash back to 1968 specifically, and isn't that a great cover? You can see the kind of protest feel in the air. So this book, I really enjoyed this. I gave this 5 stars. I liked Samuel's story. I liked his mom's story. There are also a bunch of other characters that get really well-drawn stories from them. Hippies and activists and all that. So it's really good. It seems kind of long, but it went really fast for me. I really liked, if you like mother issues, son and mother issues, if you like that time period, it takes place in Chicago in 1968 too, and that whole thing, so I really liked that. So yeah, there's a lot in here. The writing is really clever, smart, really good writing. Definitely gonna look to see what Nathan Hill will be writing in the future. Highly recommend it. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is March, graphic novel by John Lewis, Andrew Aden, and Nate Powell. This one is written by Congressman John Lewis about his days as a civil rights activist. He was in all the marches, he was in the lunch counter sit-ins. So he starts writing about when he's a boy on the farm in Alabama. So you can see some of the art. And one of my favorite parts here was when he hears Dr. King's speech on the radio. And so he hears Dr. King speaking for the first time. And he's like, look at that, he's just like thinking about it in bed. Says, I went to the school library on Monday to find out everything I could about this man. So this just, I didn't know who John Lewis was. His name isn't familiar to me, but that didn't diminish my enjoyment of this. This was really fascinating to see all of these events. Of course, I was familiar with the events, but to see it through his eyes was really, really fascinating, and to see actually how they prepared for the lunch counter protests and sit-ins. So here's some of that, but actually everything that led up to it, everything they worked toward. They planned out these lunch counter sit-ins very strategically. So it was really good, and this is actually a trilogy. So there's book 2 and book 3 of this, because this ends after the lunch counter sit-ins pretty much, but it doesn't even get into the 1963 March on Washington, where Dr. King gives the I Have a Dream speech. So that is actually coming up in book 2 or book 3. So really, really good. I'm so glad that I read this. It was great. It was touching and moving. So I recommend that. And the final one I'm going to talk about today is The Last of Her Kind by Sigrid Nunez. This one I read back in 2006 when this came out. And again, it opens in 1968 on college campus, College of Barnard. And Georgette meets her roommate Anne, who is very politically minded. She becomes an activist, and actually this girl Anne becomes a radical, and she actually her ideology gets so out of hand she ends up committing a crime, and I won't tell you what that is, I won't spoil it, but that she actually commits a crime and has to go to jail. And it's interesting because this girl Anne is from a really rich background, but she shunned that lifestyle like some of the hippies and counterculture people did in those days. And so she it's a portrait of this kind of activist. It's like she's so extreme, but yet is it coming from the goodness of her heart, or is she just shunning her parents like a spoiled brat? So through the eyes of her roommate, we get to kind of pick apart this character and see everything that's going on, all the other happenings on the college campus, and we'll see all the other activists and the Black Panthers and things like that. So I thought this was really good, and it's very memorable to me, so I wanted to recommend this. And maybe one of these sounds good to you. I will leave you with these 3 recommendations, and join me next time when I talk about 3 other books. And please comment any comments below, and like and subscribe. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe to the Stickney-Forest View Public Library's YouTube channel. Also, like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Stickney-Forest View Public Library District, where great things happen.